it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Daboll has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare-downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Daboll to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sport.
And it's time to rise and grind on a Wednesday morning. It's the early line, Sirius XM channel 159, right here on the Sports Grid Network. The topics will continue to flow. Major League Baseball, down the stretch they come. Sunday ends the regular season. Teams jockeying for position and teams just trying to fight to get their way into the playoffs. What a great show we have for you. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Dubs Anderson. The energy will be high. The next 3 hours, we will get you ready for what you need to know for tonight and also this weekend's NFL and NCAA football action. Dubsy, how are we feeling this morning? It's a glorious day.
Happy hump day. Great to be here with you, Donnie. We've got a lot going on. We're getting set for the playoffs in the baseball. The W continues. Week 4 in the National Football League. A couple of hot topics. And I know you've been in the kitchen, Donnie. You've been cooking up a couple of bangers, so I cannot wait to get through it over the next couple of hours.
Absolutely. It's great, too, because a lot of times, Dubs, like midweek, you're just waiting to say, okay, tomorrow the NFL starts. It's going to be the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Away we go in the college football. But it's great this week because we take that look on a Wednesday at where the Major League Baseball schedule looks and also who's trying to fight their way in the playoffs, as I said. And we have a lot of hot topics. So let's get right into the 7-7. That starts right in Major League Baseball. The Houston Astros 4, the Seattle Mariners 3. Champions once again in the AL West are the Astros. And Dubs, I have to say this. We talked so many times on the early line from May into June, and I said the Houston Astros are dead in the water. 12 games back of the Seattle Mariners. There's no way they're going to maybe be able to make the playoffs. Not only do they make the playoffs with their 86 win, they win the division and enter into the playoffs as a good baseball team. I didn't see it coming. The Astros are kings of the West once again.
And Donnie, given the star power across the lineup, another deep run could be expected for this one. With the first-year manager at the helm, there were question marks early. As you highlighted, it was just back there, I believe, mid-June. They were sitting 10 games back of the Mariners. They found a bit of momentum. They're cooking on every single cylinder. And this is a team with championship pedigree, not one that you want to be going to. So fantastic stuff there last night. A couple other teams clinching in the mix. But watch out for Houston.
15-7 now for Framber Valdez. He wasn't even great yesterday, Dubsy. 5 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 8 hits and 3 earned runs, but bailed out here with a couple runs for the Astros. Once again, the Astros are champions of the AL West heading in to the playoffs here. Talking about that playoff picture once again, let's flip it over, Dubs, to the National League. You saw yesterday, the Padres 4, the Los Angeles Dodgers 2. This game ends on a triple play turned by the Padres. The Padres partying inside the locker room in Dodger Stadium because they once again have made the playoffs.
This one hurt me, Donnie. This hurt a lot, but the Padres stepped up in a big spot. A triple play to clinch a playoff spot. Surprise, surprise. Manny Machado doing something special there, and they're going to need Manny off the back of that consistency. We've seen the Padres playing some great baseball over the last month, and this one's got to feel extra sweet. Down there at Chavez Ravine, Dodgers Stadium, to now make that push. So they clinch that playoff spot, and I'll tell you what, the Dodgers, they're looking over the shoulder. This is a monster series we've got going on this week.
I love the way it's shaping up because, again, the Dodgers are going to be a force in the playoffs. We understand that, but don't forget about the Padres. I mean, this team fortified the bullpen. The starting pitching looks fantastic. The 1 through 9 is incredible. They win last night. They punched their way into the playoffs. Talking about two teams also, Dubs, in the National League trying to find their way into the playoffs. It's the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets, the battle of the NL East. The Phillies clinched that division, but they are fighting for their lives now and coming down the stretch within a half game of each other. Yesterday, it was Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound, 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run given up in a playoff atmosphere in Atlanta. The Braves get the victory. I cannot wait for the final 2 games, Dubsy, of this series to play out.
Yeah, Zuna was fantastic. Collects the 39th home run for the season there. Schwellenbach was strong. A little surprised he was actually out there on the hill. So that tells us he may be the starter once they go against the Royals in the final game of the season here. So well done to the Braves. I tell you what, a little concerning in New York for the old Metsies there, Donnie. Not things you want to see as we approach October baseball.
And by the way, if you're nervous yesterday, which I like the Atlanta Braves, Dubsy, with Schwellenbach on the mound, Chris Sale takes the mound today, looking to maybe pass the Mets in the standings. And as you pointed out, rightfully so, you usually want to get a layup in the final series. Like the Los Angeles Dodgers have the Colorado Rockies for 3 games to end the season. They got to love that. You can't be happy about the Kansas City Royals fighting for a playoff spot the same as you to end the season. So great things down the stretch this weekend. Not only just football to watch, Dubsy, but Major League Baseball certainly in full effect. How about the Bronx, New York yesterday? 5-3 victory. Not for those Yankees, but for the Baltimore Orioles. You take a look at Kramer was on the mound. I didn't think he had it in him, Dubs. 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run in a big spot. The Orioles are going to the playoffs as well with that victory over the Yankees. And the Yankees have to keep that champagne on ice at least for 1 more day before they can pop the bottles for winning the AL East.
Yeah, you know we're getting close to October baseball when the ski goggles start coming out in the clubhouse. But I tell you what, for the Orioles, big performance, not so good for the Yankees. And this is the concerning part about one of the heavyweights going into the playoffs. Not good enough from the Pinstripes. Torres comes up with another blunder there. The base running blunder, I guess you could say, cost them last night. So not great for the Yankees. Good stuff there for the Orioles, who continue to, I guess, outshine expectations that I had them coming into this year. So well done.
You know, I get a good laugh out of, too, Jackson Holliday, the young, talented player for the Orioles. Everybody was popping champagne, but he's not old enough to drink, so they had a separate little thing side for him here that had sparkling water. They had a couple painted pictures, some coloring books. So they did him dirty, which I thought was hilarious. But the Orioles moving on into the playoffs. We'll see if they can beat the Yankees again to hold off the Yankees celebration. Let's flip it over to some hot NFL topics. CeeDee Lamb, he's sorry for his performance. He's sorry for his attitude in the loss. He got a lot of money. He sat out a lot of time. And basically right now, Dubsy, he's working through his offseason and preseason in the games themselves, and it hasn't been working out kindly here. We'll see if he brings that new attitude to the game on Thursday night. But CD, he's sorry.
Yeah, speaking of children, a little childish from what we saw over the weekend. And this is not what the Cowboys want to see from someone they've given, $136 million over 4 years. I mean, we saw in week 3, 4 catches for 67 yards. This is Dak's guy. If he chose to sit out, going through preseason and not get those reps in, obviously there's going to be a bit of rust on him, which I can absolutely tolerate. But the immaturity, the body language, that carry on the sidelines, especially when your team is facing a loss, that's not good enough. I expect a big bounce back in prime time.
Also favored by right around a touchdown now going up against the New York Giants here on Thursday Night Football, which will be a great game. The boys will be in studio, but that's tomorrow. More hot topics from last night, the WNBA. Some sweeps all the way around, Dubsy. You take a look at the scores. The Liberty 91-82 over the Dream, which featured Sabrina Ionescu, 36 points and 9 assists. If you take a look here at the Aces and the Storm, 83-76 final. The Aces got 24 and 13 from Asia Wilson. So the Liberty 2-0 sweep. The Aces 2-0 sweep. They're moving on.
Yeah, fantastic stuff here, and it's going to be a bit of a repeat from what we saw for the championship last year. The Aces now head into New York to take on the Liberty. They were fantastic. They were strong last night, but take a look at how it has played out throughout the regular season. The Liberty have owned the Aces. I think 2 of the most exciting teams in the W can certainly score at a very high clip. So what a showdown this looks to be for the semifinals.
reaching out, trying to get it back from what we saw last year. And who's going to win the championship this year? Could it be the Aces again? Could it be the Liberty? We'll find out soon enough. But also, NBA action. We're close, Dubsy, to getting the boys back on the court. But the one thing that's right as rain, and the sun will rise every morning, and Kawhi Leonard will be missing drills in training camp. How about that?
It's not good enough. And I mean, as a Clippers fan, you've lost all confidence at this point. I mean, you look at the last, 4-5 years, going back to the Spurs days, and for Kawhi Leonard, this is a common theme. And I believe there was a bit of hot water with the last team that tried to help him deal with that off-season surgery. So going to be a little cautious with this one, but certainly not a great sign at this point of the year. And a bit of a surprise as well. Had no idea this one was going on until that news surfaced yesterday.
It's almost like we don't know what's going on, Dubs, but the anticipation is, of course, Kawhi Leonard is going to miss time. I mean, what's the best effort here? You pay him a lot of money, sit him the entire regular season, and hope he's healthy for the playoffs? Because that may be what it takes to get Kawhi Leonard. But he's not going to start training camp, and for me, it's not a surprise whatsoever. I'll tell you what could be a surprise here as we tease into the break here, Dubsy. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers playing great football on defense, Justin Fields resurrecting his career, and Mike Tomlin's telling us, yeah, I don't care what he's doing out on the field. We're going to talk Steelers football coming up right after the break, right here on the Early Line.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Don?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Hour number 1 in full effect right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Donnie right side. It's Dubs Anderson. We got you for these 3 hours, and the hot topics are going to continue to flow, which may be none hotter than this football team, Dubs, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If we take a look at a tweet yesterday from Albert Breer, states, Steelers coach Mike Tomlin asked why he isn't naming Justin Fields as a starter right now. Quote, because there's no need. I explained to you the variables of the week. When Russ gets to an appropriate level of health and I have a decision to make, I'll make it. Door left wide open, which I love this. And let's just date this back to when both of these quarterbacks were acquired and it was apparent they're probably going to fight for the starting position. Mike Tomlin, Dubsy, all along has told you there is no conflict of interest here. There is no challenge. Russell Wilson is my quarterback. End all, be all. That's it. Game number 1, it will be Russ. Well, We didn't anticipate, Dubsy, that he would get injured. Talking about Russell Wilson in training camp. Justin Fields takes over. Justin Fields is now 3-0. Justin Fields playing better football on a week-to-week basis and saying, you know what? I should deserve to have this starting job. Now, he's not saying that in the press, but that's what he's thinking about. What do you feel so far with Mike Tomlin not just saying, hey, look, we're going to wait on Russ, but right now Fields is my starter? Why doesn't he like Justin Fields? Why?
This is why he's one of the best head coaches in the league, Donnie. I love every move here. I love every notion. And why would you not stick with Justin Fields? I mean, he's 10 years younger. He's bigger, stronger, faster, and a similar version to what you get there with Danger Russ at the back end of his career. And for Mike Tomlin, you don't want to mess with the secret sauce right now. Everything is moving and grooving. It's good vibes, obviously, in the locker room. They start the season 3-0. Justin Fields, he's fixed the turnovers. He's still an absolute beast with his wheels getting out of the backfield. And you've got Russell Wilson with no pressure in trying to get back up to 100% health. So suddenly, as they progress through the season, I tell you what, they got a pretty favorable schedule going through the sort of next 4, 5, 6 weeks here. They can make a bit of a run, and they can bring Russ back if they want to. They can allow Justin Fields to stay in the mix and keep building confidence. And this is a young player, Donnie, who's had his wings clipped the last couple of years. Never really had those weapons. He's been beat up time and time again in Chicago. He's now finally found a system and a head coach that believes in him. And look at these numbers, 518 passing yards. He's playing really efficient football. So for me, stick with Justin Fields. No need to put him at number 1 on the depth chart. Just let him cook, and Danger Russ can sit on from the sidelines.
If we look at the first 3 games of the season, right, you go on the road against the Falcons. It's always tough to win football games on road. You pick up that victory. Then you have another road game, so it's back-to-back to start the season in elevation in Denver, and you beat that football team 13-6. You come home against the Chargers. Yes, you got a little bit of a break with Justin Herbert having that high ankle sprain. He exited that football game, but you still won it by double digits, 20-10. And Dubs, I think you bring up a really good point, because here's the interesting aspect of it. If you are Mike Tomlin and you really want Russell Wilson to be your starter, you technically can't pull your starter until he loses a football game. Let's just say if they had played a healthy 49ers team in San Francisco this weekend and they lost, maybe that door could swing open towards Russell Wilson. But as you said, it's the Colts on the road. Now, granted, it's another road game. It's tough to win on the road. The Colts haven't looked like world beaters to start this season. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys at home the following week. We know what the Dallas Cowboys have looked like so far, and we'll find out on Thursday night, followed by the Raiders on the road, another beatable team. We could be looking at 4-0 versus the Colts, 5-0 versus the Cowboys, 6-0 versus the Raiders, and I don't see how you can fit Russell Wilson back into the fold. Now, time is going to tell, but for me, I didn't know what to anticipate from Justin Fields from a passing perspective. It looks like they're trusting him a little bit more. Last game, let him throw over 30 times. As you see the graphic, 1 total interception. That's what you're looking for and say, you know what? We can lean on our defense. We can win the turnover battles. That's the way we're going to focus and win football games. So let's reassess the Steelers here, Dubsy. If we're looking at them and saying, all right, could they be the class of their division? Could they win this division? Because coming into the season, I thought they would be quality. Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons. They'd be right around that 9-win mark for me. But now we look at the standings. Steelers 3-0, Ravens 1-2, Browns 1-2, Cincinnati Bengals 0-3. So if we look at the AFC North price point there at a plus 220 for the Steelers to win it, they're in first place by a couple games. Are we believing, Dubsy, the Steelers can win this division?
I think they got a really good chance, Donnie, but it's probably the buy high spot, buy low spot for a couple of the other teams in the division. To sum up the AFC North, underwhelming and disappointing from the other 3 teams thus far. You just highlighted those records. That hasn't been good enough, and I expect those contenders to make a bit of improvement. You know, we know the Ravens are going to roll. The Browns, well, question marks on what they're going to bring to the table. But for Cincinnati, I do think they find a bit of momentum. And looking at what goes against the Steelers, and they're a tough out. The last 7 weeks of their schedule, the Steelers will be playing Cleveland and the Bengals twice each there. So you've got 4 games in the division. So we could see a bit of jostling. If you think maybe since he can turn things around, not a bad time to go after them for now with the Steelers at plus 220, getting a little short for mine, Donnie. But, I mean, we've seen the way they're going to play going through the rest of the season. They're a tough out. It's a rock fight. It's an arm wrestle. They're going to beat you in a low scorer. And for Justin Fields and that offense, it feels like it's a young kid learning to ride a bike. You know, we know what he can do with that run game, but the passing game, maybe he starts to back himself a little more on that, and suddenly he's looking a lot more dynamic in that backfield and a lot tougher to scheme up against. So I like what I've seen from the Steelers thus far. I'd want to see a bit more. Next 4, easy enough. It's a really tough stretch to close out the season.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And also, as you take a look at to enter the season, the one division that I probably would say would be the toughest entering in preseason was going to be the AFC North, because we expected the Steelers to be competent. We expected the Ravens maybe to do their normal 11, 12, or 13-win season. The Cleveland Browns, the expectations were a little bit higher. Deshaun Watson's coming back for another year. Hasn't really turned out in their favor. The one probably surprise point is the Cincinnati Bengals sitting at 0-3, when theoretically, just looking at the schedule, you probably would have said, no less than 2-1 after 3 games. So the Pittsburgh Steelers now, who were on the outside looking in the preseason odds to make the playoffs, Dubs, they now sit at a minus 134 price. Let me ask you this question. Mike Tomlin has never lost that locker room since he's been in Pittsburgh. If he puts Russ in with an undefeated Justin Fields and they lose, is there a chance he could lose that locker room or get second-guessed by some of the veterans?
Absolutely. You know, I'm sure that locker room knows exactly what they're getting with Russell Wilson. We've seen enough from a distance here. Look, the young guy, he's feeling it. You've got to leave him in the game at least until things absolutely go up in a storm. But Justin Fields, he is the fix in Pittsburgh right now, and I don't see a reason why it should change.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Steelers to see how they react, because, again, I just can't take it. I love Mike Tomlin, is a good football coach, but the fact that he refuses to say Justin Fields is my starter brings a little bit of a smile to my face. Let's talk more quarterback action from South Beach. Who's starting this weekend? We'll talk about it next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over/under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
It's a Wednesday, it's hump day here on the early line, and always we love to get that information because sometimes the coaches are going to tell you what they're thinking before the weekend actually happens, and it's our job, Dubsy, to analyze what they're actually saying. Take a look at Adam Schefter's tweet from yesterday. The Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel said it was also a possibility for sure that Tyler Huntley would be Miami's starting quarterback Monday night versus the Titans. And the reason they're saying that is the problem is your starting quarterback, Skylar Thompson, is now injured with a chest injury. Hear me out on this. He was brutal before the chest injury. So in my mind, you have to go to Tyler Huntley. But my goodness, Dubsy, This was a Ferrari in the garage before the season started. Tua Tagovailoa got his money. Both wide receivers got their money. Raheem Mostert in the backfield. Devon Achane in the backfield. And now we're looking at games where we're hoping the Dolphins can get first downs and not even touchdowns. What do you think about the possibility for Snoop Huntley to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins on Monday night versus the Titans?
It's a pyramid scheme, Donnie. It's like when you book some extravagant international holiday on Expedia and you get there to the hotel. It ain't 5 stars. It's 2 stars and you barely got bath towels. That's the way the Miami Dolphins are looking right now. Skylar Thompson, I mean, are we sure he's a quarterback? Tim Boyle, I mean, you could bounce him. It has to be Tyler Huntley who comes into the mix. That is the only chance the Dolphins have of trying to keep their season alive. That offense has looked absolutely brutal without Tua, and for some of the other weapons, they're going to be sitting back there. The cheetah, Waddle, saying, what do we need to get this thing going back in the right direction? It has to be Tyler Huntley. He's more dynamic. He can use the wheels. He's a bit of a dual threat. For Skylar Thompson, we've seen enough. That show should be put to an end there. He left that game in the second quarter last week. The Miami Dolphins, Donnie, I cannot believe I'm here saying this. I had such big expectations, but it's interesting how quick injuries can turn the favor of even one of, I guess, the highest octane offenses that we expected coming in for a new year.
Dubs, I think we could go out there and play quarterback at the same level that Skylar Thompson and Boyle were showing here. So moving forward, Huntley can't be any worse. But let me ask you this question before we take a look at that Monday night tilt. What are the Dolphins going to do at quarterback? Because I know Tua was placed on IR. The expectations he's going to come back, but at any time, you can have a relapse there and concussion protocol and things might not go as smooth, and they want to hold him out even longer. Do we have to go outside the building here to make a move? I understand that you brought in Huntley, but that's not a long-term solution. Could we be looking at a longer-term solution for the Dolphins over the next 2 games if they can't find anybody suitable in their own building right now?
Yeah, I really do think Tyler Huntley will get the start coming in for this week, week 4, going against the Titans. I think they got a really good chance of rolling Tennessee. It's a pretty good matchup. And I think it's a lot tougher in trying to, defend against a quarterback like Tyler Huntley. With Skylar Thompson, you know exactly what the game plan is going to be. So it really limits that firepower from having a couple of the most exciting wide receivers in the league. So I think Tyler Huntley will get a couple of starts here. They'll try and rattle off at least a win from the next 2, next 3, but they've got to be looking outside of the building. What you've got in-house is not good enough. And I mean, this was always going to be, a factor, Donnie. Given Tua's history in his past, how has this not been thought about prior? To have Skylar Thompson as your backup, looking like he's playing junior varsity at best, going against, the Sherman Oaks Soldiers, that ain't good enough for me. So for Mike McDaniel, who would tell you he's the smartest guy in the building, really not looking so right now.
Shame of it all, too, is let's just say if you could just get competent quarterback play. Now, granted, you might have said through the first 3 games, even entering in the season, they could be 1-2. Jaguars, Bills, and Seahawks, and particularly with the Seahawks on the road. That's tough. But the next 4 games, I should say, at the Patriots, we know the Patriots aren't great. And then, of course, the Monday Night Football game, which they are favored to win that game, Colts and the Cardinals. You look at that and say to yourself, you could be, 500 or better through those 3 games until Tua comes back, and that's something that we would have liked to take a look at. But again, I misquoted here. The Dolphins are actually an underdog to the Titans, so let that sink in at home. That lets you know how bad the quarterback plays, because Will Levis can come into your building, Dubsy, and be a favorite on Monday night. Talk to me about that game and the expectations here.
It's got to be the history. I mean, this is where the last win came for Will Levis. I believe it was in week 14 of last season, came into South Beach and pulled off the upset. I'm not buying into this one. Give me the Dolphins. Give me Tyler Huntley, who's got a little bit of experience at quarterback. And for the Dolphins, the way they're going to have to use him, heavy rushing attack. Just throw everything in the kitchen sink at the Titans. If the Jags or the Bengals have been the biggest disappointments thus far through the season, I'll tell you what, Will Levis having his jar of mayonnaise and the Tennessee Titans, they have not been much better on a season where they went all in. This could be a get-right spot for the Dolphins. I don't know what they're actually getting out of this one, but I like them at home. It's a fast track. They get things rolling. 3 points against Seattle in week 3, Donnie. The Miami Dolphins, are we sure it was them?
I mean, the one good thing that we have is, again, a doubleheader on Monday Night Football, because the Titans and Dolphins might put you to sleep out there. 4 hot topics in the NFL on the early line on a Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all season, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Stubbs and Donnie right here on the early line on a Wednesday morning talking NFL hot topics. And there's always some great news and notes here on these hump day headlines. And let's start right now. One guy is down for the season. That's Trent Brown. That's the right tackle here for the Cincinnati Bengals. And quite frankly, maybe the Cincinnati Bengals as an organization are out for the season as well because it's really hard to make the playoffs at 0-3. Now, some might be looking at the division for the Bengals, Dubsy, and saying, you know what? It's not over yet. I understand they're 0-3. The Steelers are 3-0. Maybe they come back to reality. The Ravens haven't set the world on fire at 1-2, and neither have the Cleveland Browns. There's something to be said about that. But if you are already getting injured and losing games early in the season, that's not going to help the protection here for Joe Burrow at quarterback here, Dubs.
Yeah, and Joe Burrow needs it. You know, he was fantastic there on Monday night, did everything in his power, but it still wasn't enough for Cincinnati. They've got a couple other injury concerns there as well. This early part of the season, of the year, it's not good signs. And to start your year, 0-2, you're up against it. 0-3, I mean, you can almost throw it out the window. I think we've only had the one team. It was back in 2018, the Houston Texans. And with that, Donnie, it's not just the record you're fighting against, it's the locker room. It's trying to keep, spirits high. Once they throw a couple more losses into the mix there, you start throwing and going, when are we going down to Cabo at the end of the year? Boys, who's booking the hotel? Donnie, you're booking flights, and it could all be over for a team that had a lot of expectations. We thought the concern coming into this year for the Bengals would be Joe Burrow coming back at full health. Well, suddenly it's actually more concerning about the pieces around Joey B trying to move him forward.
And I wonder where this football team would be. Certainly not 0-3 if you had both of your superstar wide receivers signed early in the offseason so they can work out with the football team. They can go to training camp. They don't end up getting hamstring injuries. They don't get up being a little bit rusty before the season starts. And we'll see where that leads to. And also, if it does turn out that in a couple weeks the Bengals are 1-5 and basically out of the playoff race, what do those wide receivers do? Do they take their ball and go home and say, I'll wait for my contract to come in? T. Higgins on the franchise deal. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. Some tough turmoil coming, it looks like, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's take a look at Adam Thielen. Now, granted, you might say, what are we worried about Adam Thielen? Think about his feelings right now. He actually just got a quarterback that can actually throw a forward pass as opposed to Bryce Young, where we saw last weekend here. And now he goes to IR with a hamstring injury. I believe it was after he caught a touchdown pass as well. He doesn't even get to work out anymore. And he finally found a veteran in Andy Dalton that could deliver the football. How about that?
It's tough trying to find a silver lining in this one, Donnie. And I mean, for Adam Thielen, despite all the struggles that he's had to go through working with a Bryce Young, a sluggish offense, getting beat up, beat down every single week last year, to finally see a bit of life, a bit of promise, a bit of light there with the red rifle at quarterback coming in last week. He's now gone to the sidelines. So not good for one of the good guys in the game, Adam Thielen. A lot of respect for the way he's handled going against adversity, a real leader for that locker room. So hopefully it's a speedy recovery. But for the Panthers, I don't know, Donnie. I've got to see a little more. It was great to see them get that win last week. Always wary of the fresh quarterback coming in there in week 3. But I think they get back to looking more like the Carolina Panthers coming up for this one.
And take a look at Bryce Young, too. I mean, nobody technically roots against their team, but nobody likes to see the backup come and take your job and succeed that well, because the Panthers were absolutely brutal and then turned into, oh, look, we might have one of the better offenses in the NFL. Now, granted, time will tell on that, but just a tough look for Bryce Young getting back into that lineup where everybody was so excited about Andy Dalton, and rightfully so. They moved the football and they scored points. How about CeeDee Lamb? We talked about this in the 7-7 to open the show. He is sorry with his play. But nobody cares about what you did before. It's what you're going to do lately, which means he needs a big performance on Thursday Night Football against the Giants so he can say, I apologized, we moved on, and now I'm ready to secure that bag, which I got. I'm worth it, and away the Cowboys go in their season.
Actions speak louder than words, and you got that chance Thursday night going against the Giants, CeeDee Lamb, and, to miss a lot of reps going through the preseason to get the bag, 4 years, $136 million, and to carry on like that, it sort of tells us about the character, and it's a little immature, the head being a little sluggish, hands on their hips. It looked like he was having a bit of a spat there with Dak Prescott, your star quarterback, the leader of the Dallas Cowboys. So that's not good enough. But I tell you what, Donnie, he made a step in the right direction by coming out there yesterday, apologizing, saying he's going to be better. He's holding himself accountable, and that's what you want to see, because we know the talent is there in bunches. He's one of the best wide receivers in the game. And for the Dallas Cowboys, they need everything right now. This has been a pretty dismal start for a new year. They need to find that top stride. And I think it's going to be a fantastic game going against the Giants. I think they're going to be pushed. They're going to be tested in this one. CeeDee Lamb getting set for a monster performance.
Yeah, dropping footballs, fumbling footballs, not a good look, but you can certainly correct that on Thursday night. We'll see if he does. Derwin James, by the way, the NFLPA is a players' union. They call it a brotherhood, which means take care of your brother on the field, not try to injure your brother. Derwin James, 1-game suspension. He said, you know what? I didn't do it. I'm going to appeal. They said, you absolutely did. You will be sitting out here. You can't just knock people in the head left and right and say, I didn't think I hit that guy in the head here. Yes, you did. You're sitting out. You can't play football where your head is a missile, Dubsy.
Yeah, we're not going back, 20 years trying to KO your opponents, especially with everything going on in 2024. So not good enough. It's been, repeated violations. We've seen it time and time again. So, mate, you can sit this one out. Derwin James, try and learn from this one. Obviously, it's a contact sport, Donnie. We want to, see that physicality. That's what makes the NFL so great. But we don't want to see players' health and safety put in jeopardy, especially when there's no need to try and flex like that. So I agree with this one. Not good for the Chargers, who are still trying to get a bit more momentum, especially with that quarterback situation going down there in Herbert. So Derwin James, let's see if he learns the old lesson from this one, Tony, or it could be more extended time on the sidelines next to that Gatorade cooler.
We talk about professional football, and typically we only think NFL, USFL, XFL, but college football now has a lot of pro tendencies because why? Some of these quarterbacks, some of these running backs, wide receivers, defensive ends are getting paid really good money. Now, the question is the NIL good? Coming into this new era, I didn't think the NIL was what college football was all about. Everybody said, no, pay the athletes, which is fine. But now the athletes are de facto free agents. But maybe the start of many topics we're going to talk about over the next couple of years. Unfulfilled NIL dreams. The reason I bring this up is you might not pay all that much attention to UNLV football. They got a pretty good quarterback who transferred in this offseason for his 5th year. Now, you say to yourself, well, he's 3-0. They're doing really well. I just saw a tweet come through yesterday that said, you know what? I'm taking my ball and going home. I was promised X amount of dollars. Those dollars have not been delivered to me. Sorry to my teammates. I know we're unbeaten right now, but I'm leaving this institution. I'm going to hit the portal to look for another team who's actually going to pay me the money that I deserve. Dubs, What's going on in college football? And is this the right move for Matthew Sluka of UNLV to take his ball, go home, and hit the free agent market once again?
Nah, and it's not good. It's a sign of the times. 2024, welcome in to college football. Matt Sluka carrying on like he's done something like Matty Stafford in the pros there. I get it. The Rebels have had a fast start, but what a way to leave your locker room high and dry. You know, they're getting set for a big matchup this week going against Fresno State. Yes, he's put up pretty strong numbers, but this is going to open a can of worms moving forward, Donnie. I mean, how much longer is it going to be before a positional group starts to flex and saying, well, you know what? You need the offensive line out there. We're all going to sit out until you give us this bag. I mean, how was it promised to him? What was promised to him? But this is not a good sign for a young guy who's meant to be a leader out there for the Rebels. He certainly looked pretty strong out there on the field, but I don't like this move. I don't like where college football has gotten to, Donnie, and I believe it's only going to get worse when you've got so much money coming onto the line. They're not professionals, but suddenly they're starting to act like a couple of disgruntled star pros.
Most of these players that have the NIL do have agents or agencies that help them secure that. Can you imagine, Dubsy, if you have a real estate agent or you just show up at an auto car lot and try to sell your car and or your house? You agree to a price, the title changes hands for the house and or obviously the car, and then 3 days later they go, you know what? I was going to pay X amount of dollars for your house and car. Let's cut that in half. I still got your house and away you go. What is going on? Who is signing these contracts and how is this pay being divvied up? But this is a topic we're going to talk about for many years to come. Major League Baseball, who's in, who's out, recaps coming up next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all season, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
no to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back into the early line. Dubs Anderson alongside Donnie right side. We turn it to the diamond. Less than a week out until we hit playoff baseball. A lot on the line. Playoff implications. A nice looking slate. But let's turn it back to what we saw last night. And it was the Braves coming up big in the ATL. 5-1 over the Mets. A lot on the line in terms of the NL East, the wildcard standings. Marcell Ozuna gets his 39th home run for Atlanta. And Schwellenbach puts in a big performance, Donnie.
I was really impressed last night. The excitement, Dubs, right? We're so in the midst of football season, and we always talk about this every single year. You head into the month of August and then late August, and everybody, including myself, who's a big-time Philadelphia Phillies fan, love to handicap Major League Baseball. It sort of goes to the back burner because of how excited we are for college football and also the NFL. And even coming into this week, I sort of had to shake myself. Like Monday morning, well, like, Dubsy, did you know next week we are talking about playoff baseball and watching it and how much fun the playoffs are in Major League Baseball, National League, and American League? And yesterday, we're going to talk about the standings in a little bit, but this is a great performance. Spencer Schwellenbach, a young pitcher that came up this year, picks up his 8th victory. You look at all of the injuries to the lineup and also the pitching staff for the Braves, and they're still hanging around with a legitimate chance to make it in because of starts like last night. You're not supposed to hold up like this as a rookie and say this is a must-win baseball game, and you go on the mound, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, and lift your team to victory 5-1, which then puts the momentum back in your favor, as we'll talk about Chris Sale back on the mound today for the Atlanta Braves against the Mets. I was so impressed by a young rookie pitcher last night in that type of environment, provide that type of start. That was awesome to watch.
Yeah, he showed a lot of class. I'll tell you what, the lights were shining bright out here on the West Coast. We turn it to Hollywood. The Dodgers playing host, 3-game series going against the Padres, doing the divisional dance here for the NL West. And this division's still well and truly on the table. The Padres need to get that sweep to finish up on top, but they get the score 4-2. It was a triple play to finish this one from surprise, Manny Machado, who's been fantastic for San Diego.
No excuses for the Dodgers. You're right. You saw that triple play. A base hit, they probably win that baseball game. But also, runners in scoring position for the Dodgers, they had 10 of those. Only 2 for 10 on a conversion rate. That's not good enough. But also, let's look at the Padres and what those vibes are heading into the playoffs as they clinched last night. Usually you say, oh, my goodness, we lost Juan Soto. Well, you're going to get a couple prospects back. Maybe it's a couple years down the line, Dubsy, till we see the fruits of that trade actually come through for the Padres. Not the case this year. Michael King, 5 innings pitched last night in a big spot on the road against the Dodgers. 0 earned runs. Did you know, Dubsy, he lowered his ERA below 3. That's at a 2.95 as he improves to 13-9. The benchmark for the Padres is that bullpen is absolutely filled with hammers. The starting pitching staff coming into form and now healthy and pitching well with guys like Michael King. And also looking at that 1 through 9, it's extremely talented up and down. If there's one team, if you said, you know what, Donnie, separate the Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies, look like they're going to be the 1 and 2 seeds here in the National League. The team I'd be most worried about playing will be the Padres, and we'll talk about that. But last night, King was fantastic. And also, what are the Dodgers doing? Trying to find some starting pitching. Knack on the mound last night, 3-5 now in the season, 4 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. That's not good enough. The question marks will come up for the Dodgers and that pitching staff. But last night, the Padres punched their ticket to the playoffs, rightfully so.
Yeah, a little concerning there for the Dodgers. Also from the Pinstripes, a couple of heavyweights trying to flex their muscles going into October. A team trying to hold on and survive to stay alive, Donnie. The Arizona Diamondbacks, you wouldn't have thought so seeing this game last night, going against San Francisco. Now, this game was out in the desert out there in Arizona. They get blanked 11-0. The Giants have come in and said, hey, we might play a bit of golf during the day. We get Logan Webb out there on the bump, and we're going to roll you 11-0. This is an absolute whitewash.
It is, because usually you would say to yourself, like, hey, tough scene out here. Like, Logan Webb is a really good pitcher, 3.47 ERA, picks up his 13th win of the year. If you lost that game, Dubsy, 2-1. Just didn't have it, tried to fight back. But it wasn't even the pitching here of Logan Webb who was actually the catalyst for the shutout for the team. It was the Arizona Diamondbacks and nobody doing any damage at the plate. Come on, you don't even score a single run while we're trying to get into the playoffs and try to clinch some spots here. 6 total hits on the night. That's certainly not good enough. But what could have been for the San Francisco Giants? 79-79 on the season. They got a couple of hammers at the top of their starting rotation, which would have been hell on wheels if they made it to the playoffs. But obviously, you play it out over a season. It's not like they said, hey, you know what? Tough times. They only play 10 games in a season. They just couldn't get in. You had 100+ games here to try to get on the map and try to get into the playoffs, and they weren't able to do that. The question marks are going to come up. The Diamondbacks, for me, they caught lightning in a bottle last year on their way to the World Series. That lineup was electric down the stretch. They got competent pitching. I'm not seeing the same things this year from the Diamondbacks. And look, there's no foul. Like, they're going to be a wild card team, as it looks like. Should be able to make the playoffs, but performances like that 11-0 when there's still a lot to be decided, that's a tough scene, no doubt about it.
Yeah, a little embarrassing there. And Donnie, you know, of course it's going to be imperative to have the record to punch your card into the playoffs to make it into the wild card position there, but you want to be playing good baseball. If you take a look at the National League, it's tough trying to find the standout. You know, the Brewers have had a couple of wins. The Padres have rattled off 5 on the bounce there. But for the Diamondbacks, this is concerning. 3rd consecutive loss. Things are not going to get so much easier out there this afternoon as well. So not a great spot to be playing your worst baseball of the year.
No, it's certainly not. And you hit the nail on the head. You want to be playing your best baseball as you head into the playoffs. Now, if we just take a look at Side Point, right, we'll look at the standings in a bit. But to get that point further, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies within a half game of each other. And as we know, Sunday is the last day. What you didn't want to have happen for me is I'm a Phillies fan. I actually didn't want the Phillies to run away with the National League dubs. Let's just say the Phillies already clinched that number 1 overall seed with 5 or 6 days left to go. They then get the bye in the first round. So theoretically, they could be off from Major League Baseball for 7 to 9 to 10 days here, and maybe you're not staying sharp. I do like the fact that if the Dodgers and the Phillies come right down to Sunday afternoon within a half game of each other or tied, and the Phillies hold the tiebreaker, that's good news for both ball clubs because that means they're still engaged. They're not worried about the playoffs just yet. They're playing baseball every day, and maybe you can use that 1 to 2 to 3 days off that you're going to have once next week starts before you get involved after the bye. That could be a good thing. But as we know as baseball players, Dubsy, creatures of habit, if you're down too long and other teams are still grinding to get into the playoffs and have been in playoff mode for 2 to 3 weeks already, that could be a detriment for some of the top seats here. It's something to look out for. But I love it. Sunday afternoon, we'll know exactly where everybody stands, and next week is playoff baseball. I love it.
It is a monster week out there on the diamond. A couple of big results last night with a couple of key contenders clinching that playoff berth. We're going to take a quick break. We'll meet you back here on the other side. It's the early line.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all season long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Don?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
no to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Major League Baseball. The focus right now going to be on the National League. It's Dubs and Donnie here on a Wednesday morning of the early line. Playoffs start next week, but a lot to still be determined. Let's look at the top of the leaderboard here in the NL, Dubsy. The Philadelphia Phillies clinching a playoff spot and also the division championship. And by the way, first time in over a decade the Phillies have won that division. The Philadelphia Phillies did put out a little clip. They already have hung the banner in center field, which is actually a flag. feeling the good vibes last night. They got absolutely hammered by the Chicago Cubs, which I was anticipating, but they are sitting up top fighting for a top seed. The Milwaukee Brewers, they're in the playoffs, probably not likely to catch either the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Philadelphia Phillies, but they're in with another division win. And then you take a look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, which I do think is still an interesting race. The Dodgers lost yesterday. The Padres punched their ticket. Yes, there was a celebration in the locker room, but also they're only 2 games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers in the standings. Dylan Cease on the mound today. If they win, they can lower to 1 with the weekend sets coming up. It looks like a great race here, but let's start at the top of the standings. Brewers, Phillies, and Dodgers. Thoughts moving forward right now for you, Dubsy?
I think Phillies have probably got the most complete lineup roster that we've seen going into October. The Dodgers, a little concerning from what we have seen. They continue to disappoint in the big spots. The starting arms, the rotation, I think is going to be a little vulnerable going into the playoffs, and not good signs there for Dave Roberts in LA. The Phillies continue to play some pretty good baseball. A little concerning, I guess, that little dip in form over the last couple of weeks, but I do think they'll fire on all cylinders. In the Brewers, I feel like the Brewers have just been sneaking along, doing their thing, and lo and behold, here they are in October, and certainly have a couple of pieces that they could make a bit of a tilt with going through the playoffs there. So for me, Dodgers disappointing. I think it'll be the Phillies who continue to fly, and still a lot on the line in terms of the wild card standings. We highlighted the Diamondbacks prior to the break there. The Mets, I guess they're sort of pushing uphill as well. And the Braves need to figure it out, but they're doing their best. They've rattled off 3 on the bounce, looking to make it 4.
Yeah, and as I talked about, like before we headed into the break, that series setting up here with the Dodgers and the Padres is going to be fun to watch out. Same thing with the Philadelphia Phillies. But as we look, home field advantage is big. And I understand it may not be as big as in the NFL or in college football where the crowd really gets on your side. But the Philadelphia Phillies at home at Citizens Bank Ballpark, that's an electric atmosphere. And also at Dodger Stadium, they're 3,000 miles apart, Dubsy. So if you're heading down, it's no big deal, we each have a bye. No, you want that extra game in your building here, in your home environment, in your own time zone here. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch the Phillies and the Dodgers down the stretch and who actually cares. Last night would have been a big moment for the Dodgers to step up and win, knowing that the Phillies, after clinching, might be a little bit happy and excited. It was expected they would get rocked yesterday, but you're right. The Milwaukee Brewers always flying under the radar. But if you look at the bottom of the standings, which again isn't really the bottom, it's just the wild card standings entering into it. You look at the Padres there, they're in the playoffs, but the other 2 wild card spots still up for grabs here. You have the Mets on the mound, Mets going tonight up against Chris Sale. You're taking a look at the Diamondbacks, who got absolutely blasted 11-0 last night, and then the Braves, who, credit them. They've lost so many players, whether it's their 1 through 9, whether it's their starting pitching lineup here, and they're still battling at the end of the season with a chance to climb up once again with probably the Cy Young in the National League on the mound in Chris Sale. I'm so impressed by what they were able to do. If I had a look here, Dubsy, and gave you this question, 5, 6, and 7 right now, Mets, Diamondbacks, and Braves. Who gets in and who's left out of those 3?
Okay, I think the Braves, they're going to punch their ticket. They're playing some great baseball. They got the arms. I don't want to say it. Producer Matty may not be too impressed with this one. The Mets are going to figure it out. Can the Mets hold on, Donnie? Look, if you want a standout, a bit of a hot take here on a Wednesday, Matt's probably going to cut the mic off. Padres are there. Diamondbacks, I think they find a way. They'll turn things around. And the Braves, I don't like going against momentum. So that's going to be the 3 for me in the National League to take those wild card positions. The old Mets, it just feels like it's that time of year. It'd only be fitting that they go out in this fashion, Donnie.
I'll tell you, when you're lining up, and again, sometimes it's who you play at the end of the season and who actually needs it. Like sometimes oh no, we have the season-ending series against the Dodgers. Well, typically those good teams would have a lot of things wrapped up. If you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, they have another game with San Francisco. They have the day off Thursday, but then they have a 3-game set against the Padres, who could still be fighting the Los Angeles Dodgers to win that division. Now, what you're hoping for is the Dodgers put away that division, and San Diego, maybe Saturday and Sunday, don't need those games, and they're setting up those rotations. That could help you out, but we have a lot to be deciphered here as we go down the stretch in Major League Baseball. And as I continue to say, guys, it's playoff baseball just next week, and so many things up for grabs. We'll see how it plays out up until Sunday, but we have 1 hour down, 2 more hours to go. The topics continue to flow. Major League Baseball, absolutely. Let's look at what happened once again last night on the Diamond. Up next.